Hello builders, today I'll be walking you through a tutorial of how I built consensus markets, a fully functional sports prediction market on Genlayer. So it's production ready, it uses AI powered market resolution and dispute mechanisms, and it has real money like flow. As you can see on my dashboard, I have a play balance of $12,730. So I'll just quickly show you how the app works. So first we go to create and then let's say Chelsea. Let's select teams. Chelsea versus say Crystal Palace. So it of course is the Premier League. So let's use the date. I think it's 25th of January on a Sunday. It's around 3 p.m. So we're just gonna select 3 p.m. Uh yeah, show 3 p.m. here. And then the resolution we go to the BBTY site and then copy and paste the resolution. Just click on create market. So we'll just wait for my MetaMask to pop up and then I'll sign the transaction. And then we'll wait for the market to create. So just click confirm and we'll wait. So it's creating market now. Okay, so guys, you can see from here that the Chelsea versus Crystal Palace match was created and you can see the odds there. So you just go here and then we'll just bet on Chelsea because I think they won. So we'll put like $1,000. Then we'll just click place bet and as usual, we'll sign the transaction. Okay, now we just click confirm and sign the transaction. And then we'll wait. Okay, so guys, we just bet on it. So we've bet on Chelsea. All that's left now, you can see the total pool is now $1,000. That's what we bet, and our balance has decreased. So we just go to resolve market so we can get the results. So you click on resolve market and then you just sign the transaction as usual. So you click confirm and then we wait. So guys, as you can see, the market has been resolved successfully. So we'll just go to our homepage and yeah, you can see the winner was Chelsea indeed. So we won. So we just go here, scroll down and click claim winning. And then as usual, we'll sign the transaction. Just click confirm. When we click confirm, we'll just hold on. Our balance is $11,730. So we're just going to wait for a while. So guys, as you can see now, my play balance has been updated and now it's $13,339. So this just shows you how the consensus market works. You can also dispute if you think the outcome is different, you can submit a dispute. So now I'll be showing you how I built it. Okay, so before we dive into creating anything or showing, I just need to explain the key concepts around Genlayer. So first, let me go to the studio. Okay, this is my intelligent smart contract. So basically, Genlayer uses intelligent smart contracts that are written in Python code. This code can call LLMs during executions. They can script websites non-deterministically. They can reach consensus on semantic meanings. So basically, what this means is this intelligent smart contracts that are written can have access to the internet. It's just basically what LLMs can do. So basically, if you come here, you will see the validators, you will see different models, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Grok. So basically, these are the LLMs or the validators that reach a consensus. So anytime what you want to do is first you have to understand that every the app you are building depends on an intelligent smart contract. That is the most important thing. So you first have to write your intelligent smart contract. This is mine here. So when you write it, you go to the studio, maybe you create a new file or wherever you wrote your code in your VS Code. You, for example, this is mine. This is the entire code. So this is where I have it in my contract file, and then probably I just upload it in the studio, just copy the code. So when it is written, and make sure that there are no errors. If you want to know errors, you can always see it in this logs, this console logs. You can use this to clear out some things you don't want. You can just clear the logs and then whatever error you need to see, you will see it within this console logs and you debug it and make sure your intelligent smart contract is okay. And then when it's okay, you come to run and debug it's already deployed here, but when I initially wanted to deploy is my prediction market, I had to put in what we call constructors. That's the constructors are initial balance and the BPS. That's a kind of fee that I receive for every win on my app. But you just put the initial constructors and then you deploy. I think when you start, if we're to use a new smart contract, let's say this hello world, and I go to run on the debug, you can see there's an initial constructor. We can just leave it empty. When you just click deploy, your MetaMask will pop up, you sign the transaction, it gets deployed, and then you see your this is the address it gets deployed at. So you just copy it and then you paste it in your .env or your environment variable file and whatever config file. So basically this is how to use the studio. You use the studio to read methods, which is just basically get whatever you want to see. For example, if I get the total market count here, I can just call this contract, and if I call it, you see response accepted 3. And on my UI, you can see that there are 3 markets, so it corresponds. While the right methods are basically I can use here to place a bet now. So if I wanted to place a bet, I can basically use here and it will still work the same way. So basically, the studio is just to interact with your intelligent smart contract. And this is where you go to deploy. These are the validators. This is your contract. This is where you debug. So I think that part should be explained properly. And basically, if we're going into deep talk, it's just how I get my result from the web is through GL dot non-det. Non-det stands for non-deterministic operations. GL dot non-det web render. So if you check my prediction market, if I'm to search it, you see where I used it in my code. So that's how I basically scrape the results from the website. I get it from BBC Sports Fixtures site. And the key concept, that's the optimistic democracy. So the validators, like I said earlier, they vote on execution results, and any disagreement will trigger a re-execution. For example, if I was to deploy this same prediction market again, you would see that in my logs, the validators will reach a consensus, and if majority disagree, then the leader will get rotated. And then when the leader gets rotated, they will try again until majority agree. So most times when I create a market or when I try to generate odds, the I don't initially not all the validators agree. Like majority do disagree. So they have to rotate like 2 or 3 times sometimes before the odds are finally generated well. And I'm using non-comparative. You see, there's also the equivalence principle I'm using now. Let me get to that. Instead of the exact matches, the validator will use LLMs to determine if my outputs are equivalent enough. So basically, there is strict and there is non-comparative. In strict, it must be the exact, while in non-comparative, if it's just close enough or similar, it's they will all agree and it will work. So I recommend using non-comparative. You can check the docs. A very powerful way to understand Genlayer is by accessing Genlayer's docs. That's very good. You can read the docs and then you can also basically vibe code your way there. This is where you see the equivalence principle. You can see how to use non-comparative and strict. I recommend reading the docs and also trying to understand everything. There are also examples here to follow. So basically, once you have the docs, you are good to go, to be honest. But this is usually how it works. So now, let me get to how you can vibe code your way to this. Okay, now guys, let's get to the main part of how to create this. You can just basically vibe code it. This was vibe coded by me. So I guess you have to get a good LLM. You can use AI agents and anything, but me, I like to use the Claude on the site itself. I'm even using the free plan, so that's what I use. So basically, you have to first understand the docs. Like I said, visit the Genlayer docs. when you visit the Genlayer docs, you have to read the docs. You also have to make the AI understand the docs as well. So that's basically it. Read and understand the documentation first. Then you know how to prompt Claude. So when you're prompting Claude, you have to understand how the first thing you need is the workflow. Like you have to break it in parts, what to achieve and how fast and when and stuff like that. So basically, I first get down my project structure. So I prompt Claude, I tell it what I want to build, I tell it the features and everything. Like I just write it down, and then the second thing I do is tell it to generate a project structure, tell it to generate a plan and stuff. So when you that's the first thing. You can't start vibe coding or doing anything without the plan. You need a plan first. So when you get the plan, the project structure, the workflow, that is when you can start. So when I prompt Club that time, it gave me this full project structure, and this was how I was able to achieve my project structure. So once you have your project structure down, the second thing is the workflow. You look at what and what you're supposed to start with. So I tell you the most important part of any the app on Genlayer is the intelligent smart contracts. So we obviously know that Cloud will start writing the code for this first. It's going to break down different features for you, and whatever Cloud does, it will make sure that it tries to follow as much direction from you as possible. That is why I recommend reading the documentation first before trying to vibe code or do anything. Or if you're too lazy, I don't know, you can get a premium LLM and then just paste the entire thing, but it's not really recommended. So once you have your project structure down and everything. So basically, the tutorial I was supposed to do, I could actually fork a boilerplate, but I'm not really a fan of that. I like to build my things from scratch. So the way I do build my thing from scratch for anybody who wants to use my stack, because my stack is just basically Vite and JavaScript with Tailwind CSS at 3. So this is basically my stack. So and in order to achieve this, I use outdated Tailwind, don't mind me. But in order to achieve this, the first thing you're going to do is you need to go to this site, vite.dev. So when you go to the site, you're going to see this. You just click get started. Then when you click get started, you just scroll down. And then here you see this using create Vite with command line option. Then you open it, then you just copy this. You just copy this, and then maybe you open. You always need to have your notepad open at all times, so you just paste it. When you paste it now, you notice you're gonna change this to React because it's a React application too. And then you're just gonna change this to the name of whatever your app you're building. So in my case, it was consensus market. That's why I had this down. So it's npm create right at latest. And some this npm you have to download, install it on your machine. You have to install Node.js to be specific. You need to install Node.js so you'll be able to use it. Right now, if you come to my console, you can see, or let's just search Node.js. You can see I have it installed. Basically, I have Node.js installed, so you need it. I believe that's just the most basic thing. If you have Node.js installed, then you can use npm pretty well. npm stands for Node Package Manager. So you just once you paste in this command after you've edited it and you open your command line or your CMD, and then you paste it. Once you paste it and you just hit enter, it's going to create a folder. Now before you do this, so you have to know where that folder will be created. For example, now I do like to change my directory to my desktop. When I change my directory to my desktop, and then I now paste that line. When I paste the line on this desktop, it's going to create a folder named consensus market. That's why if you check my desktop here, you're going to see a folder named consensus market here. So that's the location it's going to create it. So when you paste that, the next thing you're going to do is now you have created the basic template of React, but you won't open it first, or you can choose to open it, whichever is fine. Then the second thing is to install Tailwind. I told you I use outdated Tailwind. You can use Tailwind 4, but it's just my stack, so I just this is the command for installing Tailwind CSS3. So this will install it. It will also install post CSS2. So once you do npm install d like this, you can pause the video and take a look. Then you copy it. But when you want to paste it, you have to change directory again. You have to change the directory to the name of your app. So I'm just going to say consensus markets, and then I would paste this. So when I paste that, it's going to install Tailwind inside my template. Then the last thing for Tailwind to work properly is you have to initialize it. When you initialize it, it's going to create two files. When I will just copy this, and I'm not going to change directory again. This I'll just paste this here too in the same um directory as my dapp file name. And then when I paste it, it's going to create two files named post css config and tailwind config.js. This is really outdated, but I just like using it because it doesn't stress me and it's something. So it creates this two file. Then when you open it, you're not going to see all these components and stuff and all these hooks. It's just going to give you the basic layout, the basic templates of a React file, and then you're just going to have everything. So basically now it's now your job to go here, and then since you have a plan with Claude, it's going to start generating the codes one by one. Then you copy, you paste, you copy, you paste. By the time you're done pasting, then you have to try and debug. So I recommend debugging from your studio. Don't try to debug your intelligent smart contract from here because you're not going to see any error. If you're having any errors, I recommend also using the studio to debug. I've done a tutorial. If you want to debug, you will see the errors here. This is to clear the logs. Anytime you paste a wrong intelligent contract, you will see the errors here. You will also see some red kind of lines on your code, so you know that there's something wrong, so you can debug it from here. And whatever problem you're facing, please use the studio to debug as long as it is for the intelligent smart contract. You have your hooks. Hooks are basically the thing that determines the life cycle of any project. So if you want to, this is a hook for using our contract to interact with our smart contract. That's our get market, get user balance. We create a hook to interact with that smart contract. You could use market. So those are basically what hook for. This wallet context is a file that is used for creating a kind of context that I'll use to connect to my MetaMask. We use Windows.Ethereum. That's usually what calls MetaMask. So that's what my wallet calling. Genlayer SDK. And I almost forgot your package.json. You notice this. You have to install the Genlayers SDK. This Genlayers JS. You have to install the latest version. So be very careful. If you check the documentation, you should see it right around somewhere. So Genlayer.js, please make sure you read this. There's a lot of information, so you must use npm install Genlayer.js and install it. That is how you'll be able to talk in your front end with your smart contract and communicate. This Genlayer SDK is also what helps us because by now you should have noticed that most projects in Genlayer, for example, my consensus market, if I refresh this page now, you're going to see that my wallet was disconnected and I have a new address and it's auto generated. If I refresh it again, this address is going to change. So Genlayer's SDK provides a kind of technology that auto generates accounts or addresses for you. So this is an example. So you're going to want to have to use it properly, and then basically you have your components that you generate. So for debugging, as I've said, please use the studio. For anything else, you can also use Claude to debug, you can use GPT to debug, but you also have to understand what you are building. So it's not really difficult this way. And then basically I think that's about it for build by coding the app. So you first, and one important thing is once you should focus mostly on your intelligent smart contract because once you have this down, the rest are pretty easy. because once you have your intelligent smart contract built properly on your Genlayer Studio, I recommend testing your read and write methods to make sure that they work properly, because there are sometimes you build a project and you deploy it and it will deploy properly, but when it's time to test it, please use the Genlayer Studio to test it and confirm it works well before migrating to your front end, because on your front end you might not see the error that is causing it. You might see finalized, but sometimes when you deploy contract you see finalized, but that finalized has an error attached to it and you only see it from the studio, but your app or your front end might be telling you that it works, meanwhile it doesn't. So please make sure that you use the studio to test it first. Once it works from the studio, if I want, when I started, I created market from the studio. That's why you can even see all this here. So test it from the studio. Once you test it from the studio, it's and you are sure it works, then you can then connect it to your front end. And for effective communication, like I said, your front end and your contract, you make sure that you install the Genlayer JS SDK and install the latest version. Please install the latest version. So basically, that's really basically how to build the app on Genlayer. You can also fork the boilerplate from their GitHub site. And I think that's it. So when you're done, you just usually push it. You can just go to Git. If you Once you have Git bash, you can just change the directory to the app. Let's say consensus market, and then when I'm there, you see this mean. If I make any changes now, just write git add, and then I'll just git commit the name of the message, whatever. Let's say change or something, and then I'll just put git push origin main, and then I just hit enter and boom. So I don't have any changes because I'm already done with my DR, but that's basically how it is. So I want to show you another nice feature I have on my DR. So I just put some mock data at place features to help, just in case someone wants to create match like that and create. I think I've shown you all this. So basically that is how to build on Genlayer. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me. And just remember, LLMs are there for you. And if you have any problem, just message any mod on the Discord. We have Pavel, we have Raz. Those are cracked devs. They will answer you. Because even me, this intelligent smart contracts, it's about, I think, 500 lines of code. The more the code, the more the bugs, and the more harder it is to make it work. But they were able to help me from time to time, especially Pavel. So thank you. I'll see you next time.